Hello YouTube, it's me again. So I got a question from one of our drivers who's been with the company for 3 years. I don't know why he's asking me, because it's like I've only been here a year, so I mean, you know a lot more about this than I do, unless you haven't been asking. But you know, I don't know, and haven't been doing research. I don't know. I like looking stuff up, so I'm a research nut. So he asked me, what are the pros and cons of going IC? And there's quite a few of them with us, because he's been with us for 3 years as a company driver and has quite a bit of money saved up from what he says. So there are a few options you can go on that route. So so you can do buy a truck flat out for 40 to 60 grand, and okay, so you got 80 in the bank, right? So you buy a truck for 40 to 60 grand and you keep 20 off to the side for any kind of major repairs, because a used vehicle is gonna have problems. Now, there's a lot of places that will sell you a good truck for that price with a minimal warranty on it. I didn't do a lot of research on that because that's not the route I'm going, but from everything I've heard, you can do that and get one with a little bit of a warranty. But I'd still have money, regardless of what route you choose. Start off this way: regardless of what route you choose, keep at least 20K on the side for any kind of repairs. That will cover even an engine, just in case something stupid happens. So Schneider leases run like $1,200 a week, but that includes, don't get me wrong, that's more than just a truck payment. That includes all the other fixed costs like insurance and base plates and I don't know. I didn't write all that down, so there's a lot of other things in there that's included in that price. So if you go with the lease, you won't have to put any money down. You can get see, I'm going brand new, okay? That way I don't have to worry as much about repairs. I'm still going to set aside, if I can, if the revenue is there, I'm going to set aside 20 grand, and then I'm going to start using whatever else is coming in is going to be invested into other businesses. So I'm not concentrated in one type of business, because you're setting yourself up for failure, in my own opinion. And opinions vary widely, but personally, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I used to work for a guy that owned a pizza restaurant, and he lost it because that was his only source of income. I left there, I got fired. They called me back and said, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking for a job. He said, nah, get up here, you're my new manager, because I just fired that manager that fired you because he sucks at his job. So needless to say, we ended up moving the restaurant because he found a better spot with a better lease, and I got screwed out of some money because I took money out of my own pocket to pay my employees, his employees that worked under me. Bad idea. I'm never doing that again. I learned real quick about that. But I mean, he set himself up for failure because he only had enough set aside and only invested in this one business. And I don't know if he had anything else going on. I never heard or saw the guy again. So he might have just worked something out somewhere else somehow. I don't know. Anyway, in my opinion, he's a jerkwad for doing that. So, and there's a lot of glare on my glasses. Let me see if I can fix that, eh? Barely. So there's a lot of glare coming off the dirt out there, and I need him to read what I wrote down. But so let's get down to brass tacks, right? First of all, y'all need to go to look up Big Rig Radio Network. Big Rig Radio Network on YouTube, and look for his Schools in Session series. That gentleman is named Jeffrey Light, and he has a lot of Schools in Session. He worked with us for quite a while. I believe all his old Schneider videos are still up there. They are fairly educational. He tells you about buying versus leasing and new. I could have sworn there was a new versus old. I can't find it. I looked yesterday or day before yesterday after Dude asked me the question. I was trying to find the video so I could point it out to him, but I know there's some in there, and the whole thing with him, the lease is if you can get a lease that is maintenance free, go that way, because you won't be paying for tires, you won't be paying for oil, you will pay for literally nothing that it needs to be repaired. And you can do that, like if you can go to Volvo or Freightliner, whomever has one of the maintenance free leases, get that, because you won't pay for any of that stuff. It'll all be covered under your maintenance free lease. The cost is a little bit more, but you're gonna have to sit down and figure out how many miles you're gonna drive, how many miles the tires that are on it go through, and so on. But that's a completely different aspect of what the question was, right? So, and the other guy you need to look at is Big Rig CEO. He actually currently works for us right now. He has some decent videos as well. He's a good guy. I've spoken with him personally, and great guy. Anyway, so the pros and cons of going IC. The pros are flexibility of being able to take off when needed, and you're home when needed. Like if an emergency should arise, you don't have to sit there and say, I need you to get me home, so da-da-da-da-da. And Schneider, don't get me wrong, man. I had a problem. My wife hit a deer, and I immediately called my DBL. My wife was freaking out. She didn't have a vehicle anymore, but it was on the weekend or Friday, so it didn't really matter too much. Just ripped the whole front end apart. But don't get me wrong now, I stopped, called my DBL. He routed me to a way where I was home that evening, and I was able to do what I needed to do to get my wife back on the road and everything, and make sure she was okay. And she was having a panic attack because she thought I was going to be freaking out. Man, it's a car. I don't care. I bought another one and replaced the whole front end. Whoop-de-doo. Anyway, so you got the flexibility of taking off when needed. You get to pick what, where, and when and how long you run. I mean, if you like to run 10 hours a day, you can run 10 hours a day. You can pick a long trip and run that. I mean, if you like to run 6 hours a day, and you like to run orders a day and a half, like start in the morning and then run into the next day, you can do that. I mean, the thing I was told you got to look for is, it's not a mileage deal. Don't look at the mileage when you do that. You got to look at the revenue that you're going to get coming off of it. The compliance of when you're leasing as opposed to owner-operator with like the spot market, as opposed to our contract rate, working for a company, leasing onto a company as opposed to running your own truck. The compliance belongs mostly to the company, like the insurance and so on. That will be taken care of by the company. Now, there is going to be some fees attached to it one way or another. Like Schneider, that's part of the 35%. Some of it is part of the 35%. The other is part of your fixed costs. Like there's trailer insurance as well. Like if you work for yourself, you have cab insurance, power unit insurance, and trailer insurance. So, you know, you got extra costs coming out of your pocket if you're running yourself. There's more money or more home time or less mileage if you're running IC. So, I mean, you can make more money if you do it right. Everybody out there that they're still making money from everything I'm still reading. I haven't spoken with anybody in a couple of weeks, but it's all good. You get to pick your own truck, especially if you have, say, 80 grand laying around, even 50 or 30 grand laying around. You can go somewhere, and all you got to do, like if it's a brand new truck, 10% of 170 grand, that's $17,000. You can get a truck just about anywhere from a dealership for that much. And if I had 80 grand, that's what I would do. I wouldn't go through Schneider's lease program, but I would become an IC, because they have good freight, but their lease program is a bit astronomical for the price, right? So you're spending almost $1,000 a week on a truck alone. That's $52K a year, but it is paid off in 3 years now. As opposed to a dealership, you can do the same thing, but you're going to have to pay the same amount of money out of your pocket. Like if you put 17 grand down, you still owe $153,000 on a $170,000 truck. So you got to figure, I don't have it in front of me, but the interest rate on that, 8 to 10%, whatever it would be, I'm not sure. So I actually have, I can't pause that. So I have an app on my phone that it tells you, it has about a dozen different calculators on it. It's I think it's called Financial Calculator, but it has a tip calculator. It has a mortgage interest calculator that will be basic or advanced with PMI and everything. And you can get one of these apps and find out the average interest rate going for vehicles nowadays with 10% down on a big rig like that, because the cost of a house, dude, it's not going to be cheap like your car. Okay, you can get a car with 4% interest. You're not necessarily going to get that with a truck unless you put a huge amount down. And that's not always the wise thing to do, because, you know, just like a car, it depreciates the minute you pull it off the lot. Don't forget that. So, but I would go with, if I could, I would go buy my own truck, not buy it, but put a down payment on a truck and finance the rest of it through either that company. Credit union is supposedly the best way to go. So if you don't have a credit union account, go get one, open up a business account, and there's a girl named not Sharon, it's spelled Sharon Lambert with 2 R's, but it's Sharon, or I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. So, but she is real wise. If you search her name on Facebook, and you'll see some of the comments she's made. She was with us for a while. She started with us. Was supposedly not going to succeed, and she has outdone everyone's expectations as far as being she's now an owner-operator. She worked for us for a little while and then went and did her own thing, and she's making killer money. So look up her advice on certain things too, as far as that goes, because she could probably actually tell you better if you're interested in owner-operator and running for yourself. I wouldn't do that right away, especially right now with the way the market is, because there's a lot of extra expenses, and if you don't know the lanes or anything, and you don't have a good broker that knows you, and you don't have established reputation as a truck driver, which there's a lot of things that go into being an owner-operator. I'm nowhere near that, so I won't go into that anymore. We'll still continue with this. So you get more respect from other drivers being an owner-operator, which is, I mean, I can kind of see why. I've seen some of these company drivers, not just with our company, I mean overall as company drivers, they some of them, and then again, you know, owner-operators, not all of them are the best people in the world either. I mean, but the good ones are the ones that'll survive in the hard times. And you get tax advantages being an IC. There are ways you can write off your taxes, write off just about everything you have going on. So you really need to get an accountant if you go IC. Now, you're going to be paying like $500, $600 a year for a good accountant, but the right accountant, you will spend astronomically less amount of money on taxes than if you did it yourself. They know all the write-offs you can get. I mean, the lease is a write-off. Your food, because you're an IC and an owner-operator, basically, you can call it a lease purchaser, but technically, and there's a lot of argument about this, you are an owner-operator, because even if you were leasing it from Ryder or another company, or buying it through a loan from another company, you're still the one running the company that is on the name on the side of that truck. Even if you don't get your own little business thing going, you're still the owner-operator of that business, one way or another. So the disadvantages or cons of going IC are the taxes are all on you. You go back to taxes again. There are tax advantages, but they are all on you. So if you don't pay your taxes, you can say hello to Al Capone. He's dead now, isn't he? But, you know, the health insurance is all on you. Now, there are companies out there. There's one that, there's a Christian one out there for all you believers like me that actually pays a portion. You pay a certain amount per month, depending on how many people are in your family. And a lot of your bills get taken care of by the group itself. It's a group effort thing. I'm sure there's others out there just like that. I don't know. I haven't researched them. I'm not at that step yet, or that stage, because my wife is doing the insurance right now. Or, I mean, if you got a wife that's working, hey, use her insurance as long as she's working. Just make sure that you know that when she quits, because you're making so much bank that you're going to have to find something to do for insurance. Because trust me, you're going to need it. The older you get, the more the foundation sags, and the more the plumbing leaks, and so on. You know, so just like a house, just like a car, just like anything, the older it gets, the shoddier the equipment gets. You can take care of it all you want, but there are still defects in the equipment. Breakdowns and repairs are on you. That's another con. Anything that happens to your vehicle. That's why I'm getting a new one. Okay, I thought about used. Used is a great idea. Another thing, if you're getting used, make sure you get an oil sample. That has something to do with determining on how bad of a shape the engine is in. I don't know all about that. I work on my own cars, but I couldn't tell you a thing other than how to change certain things in these trucks. Like I could change an alternator starter and all that, even though they weigh 5,000 pounds. But yeah, all the breakdowns and repairs are on you. The cons are just like the pros. You get to pick your loads. The cons are you get to pick your loads. That can be a disadvantage as well as an advantage. Because if you pick the wrong load or the wrong customer, they'll end up going on your no-fly zone. I know there's a group out there that has a no-fly zone list for customers, but I mean, one of the areas, and we won't do it because we're not reefers, but is the grocery people are hugely understaffed or just lazy or something. I know grocery reefer guys, if you ever talk to any of them boys, they'll tell you how much of a weight they got. I mean, there's certain ones that they will not touch because the customer service there, and they just let truckers sit for 7, 8, 9 hours. But then again, if it's a customer like that you know, well, you know, this, I'm thinking of spot market stuff as well, because I've been looking into so many different things. I mean, when you get a customer that you know is a bad customer that makes people wait, you add extra onto the rate con. And a rate con is, like, y'all need to know this, a rate con is what the it's a rate confirmation basically of like, I'm gonna haul this load for you, and you wanna pay $1,000. I'm requesting $1,500 because I have to, like, if it's a flatbed, I have to tarp it and strap it, and that you didn't include that in the rate con. So in addition to the mileage, I need this much extra. Or it's a reefer load and I'm going to unload at a place where I know it's going to be an extra 4 hours, so I'm automatically going to charge you for the wait time. Now, and the rate con is what you'll get from a broker, unless you have a dedicated customer. You know, I don't know everything about all that, but I do know a little bit. So anyway, that's pick your loads. Another con is you have to make sure your take-home covers everything. And that means everything. So, like, when you decide to do this, you have to, like, I got an app on my phone called Let's Truck. It actually has a website. You can go in there and put your truck in there and your stats on your truck, like the rear end, the tires. There's all kinds of stuff. There's one of the things you need to look for on the tires of your truck is, and Schneider won't give you this choice. You're going to get the tires that come with the truck. You want a tire with low RR, which is rolling resistance. The less the rolling resistance, the more gas savings you're going to have. The key factor in all of this is fuel. The majority of it is fuel. Now, you want to look at your phone is getting warm. covered up because it's sitting in the sun. The key thing you want to look at is fuel. The other thing you need to look at is revenue coming off of, like on ours, you got to look at revenue. And I'm sure they're pretty much the same for anything. It's not just the mileage. I mean, the mileage is a little bit of it, but you got to look at revenue. How much are you going to make? So when you look at the revenue, you'll say, okay, this load goes for $1,000, but it's a 40,000 pound load. So I'm going to be getting less gas mileage than I would out of a 20,000 pound load. Did I say $40,000? It's a 40,000 pound load. So you got to combine a lot of factors in there. But those are the pros and cons of going IC. The other one is quick depreciation on the vehicle. Now you get to write, like if you're buying it, if you're leasing it, you get to write the lease off. If you're buying it, you get to write the depreciation off. You talk to your tax person about that. I don't know the whole details on it, but vehicles are only allowed to depreciate for a certain amount of years. And I worked for H&R, well, I trained with H&R Block for a very short time until I found out they wouldn't make anything until you've been with them for like 8 or 9 years. But depreciation, it only goes down for like 5 years. And after that, you cannot depreciate it any longer, so you have to spread it out over those 5 years or whatever it is. I don't know how the payments are, like if you're making payments on a vehicle. All right, y'all, I'm waiting on a relay. Hoping it was going to be here. I got about another hour or two before it supposedly gets here. Hopefully an hour and a half, so I can roll on out of here. So that's about it as far as that goes. The bottom line is, if your wheels ain't turning, you ain't earning. So get yourself a good accountant. I know you're getting warm. Shut up, man. Get yourself a good accountant, and it is a little bit warm. Maybe I should take it out of the sun, but I'm about done here. So get a good accountant. Personally, if you got that much money, buddy, buy outside of Schneider Finance, because with that you can also go to any company, not just the ones that are approved by Schneider. If you get a lease from Schneider, you can only go to Schneider approved companies. Landstar is one of them. I don't know who the others are. Landstar, it has mixed reviews. Some of them say it's decent, some of them don't. We've had drivers leave and go to Landstar and then come back from Landstar. Supposedly there's too many people in the mix on, I think I got sunburned. There's too many people in the mix on Landstar's freight, from what I've been told. So they'll give all the good freight to their own trucks. Like they'll have 5 trucks on, but they'll still be dispatched, and they'll give all the good freight to their trucks and then let you get the scraps. So I don't know. There's a couple of companies like that. But get your own truck, finance your own truck yourself. That way you can take it anywhere you want. The thing is, you got to remember, and if you get a lease from Schneider, it'll cost you $6,000 to get out of the lease. It used to be 5, it's gone up to 6. So, I mean, my plan is, because I can't put a down payment on it that I want to do, so I'm gonna get it, and your first 10 days are free on the lease. After that, you have to start making the weekly payments. But my first 10 days, because the first 2 weeks are free, but I call it 10 days because you're out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You're in class, right? So that's 4 days, and then you have 10 more days before the 2 weeks is up, before you have to start making payments, right? So actually, that third week is kind of a free week, kind of. Depends on how you look at it. So the third week, the money you actually start earning is what they're actually going to use to take out. So that's when you really need to sit down and make sure you're making. But like I said, what you want to do when you do this is sit down and write down, depending on what you're doing, as far as your pay. So if you're taking all the money out of the truck, and I wouldn't recommend that, and just using it and putting it in your own bank account, don't do that. That's not money wise, okay? That's not the most smart financial thing to do. What you want to do is you want to take the income that truck pulls in and give yourself a paycheck with a W-2 and then put the rest in the business. Okay? Now you can draw a residual or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it is. My buddy told me how to do it, but he said he'll explain it more once I get into the business. But you pay yourself a set amount and the rest goes into the business. So my recommendation, I mean, you can. I mean, if you got that much money off to the side, you still want to put some more money into the business. That way, I mean, if you're making payments on your truck, that will be, the business can pay the truck payment, and then you get paid yourself, right? So in the end, the business will own the truck, and that'll go for taxes against the business. I'm using an S corp because there are certain taxes that are not taken out with an S corporation, but it has to meet certain qualifications. That's something you need to look into. You can also do an LLC and pay out as an S corp or something like that, which is that's one of the most tax advantageous ones. That much I do know. Other than that, I'm not sure. I still have to talk to my guy and see what he says as far as the business itself. But so sit down. Like I was saying, I'm sorry, I got distracted. So talking about the app, the Let's Truck app. I put every single fuel up I have in this truck in here. So I wanted to see how much money this truck was saving or spending in gas. So the average, I've done, I don't know, 80 fill-ups since November. I've had the truck since November, 50,000 some odd miles. Brand new Freightliner, and it's averaging 38 cents a mile for gas. I don't know what the fuel up is, and that's one of the things I took into effect. So it's spread out over 6 months. That's a good range. The other thing you want to do is say your truck payment. Say it's $1,000 a month. So you're going to take the $1,000 a month and break that down into, like, say you guess you're going to, just to make it easy, I'm going to drive $1,000. That's 1,000 miles a month. So you want to do $1 a mile for, and that's not realistic. You're going to drive a lot more. Say you're driving, okay, we'll do it this way. Say you're driving 10,000 miles a month, right? And your payment is $1,000 a month. So that will end up being, what, 10 cents a mile or something like that? I think. I don't know. I'd have to actually sit down and figure that out. But you got to figure out your fixed costs and your rotating costs. Your rotating costs will be like repairs and stuff like that, because they're never going to be exactly the same. If you have a brand new truck, this thing hasn't given me heartbeat. It gave me a couple of problems that would have cost maybe $1,000, and that is figured into. Let's Truck actually has a thing in there where you can put modifications, repairs, and something else in there, along with the fuel. So I put down like $1,000 for all the repairs that had to go in this truck because the lights came on and the inverter got fried or something. I don't know what happened. So I put that in there, and it still sat at 38 cents a mile. With the payments, I had figured about $1,200 a week in payments on 2,500 miles a week, I believe. I'm not sure. I was just doing hypotheticals because I don't know what I'm going to be driving. But I figured that much for the payments. It ended up being, with everything, and I don't know, $850 a week to me. And that added up to about $1.40 a mile. So sit down and figure out your costs, and you can do it like, instead of paying yourself, you can do like your house cost. If you do it, my personal opinion, the stupid way or the wrong way is to use your business for everything. Excuse me. So you can do it and take out like my rent, my car payment, my house payment, whatever, health insurance. Well, that's anything that you would pay that would have come originally from a paycheck, and put that in the breakdown instead. I personally don't do it like that because that comes out of my check. That doesn't come out of my business. My business is one entity. My pay is a completely different entity, because when my business is gone, where am I? I'm still out here working somewhere. I can't take it out of this thing because this thing's gone. So I'm doing it different because, I mean, personally, that would be the better way to do it. But that's your pros and cons, and hopefully a little bit of help on figuring out what your expenses and stuff are. Any questions or anything, let me know. Like I said, I'm always willing to do research on this stuff. I like to know things too. But like I said, check those guys out, Big Rig Radio Network and Big Rig CEO, especially Big Rig Radio Network with schools in session. He has some really good advice. Other than that, hope my relay gets here soon. I'm being routed to Atlanta. I'll be on vacation next week, so that's another thing. If y'all are joining us and you stay with the company for a year, after 1 year you get a vacation. It's a paid vacation based on what you've made over the last year, 6 months, something like that. I don't know. I ain't worried about that. I'm getting at least a little bit of a paycheck for a vacation. But the only problem with vacation is they want you to clean your truck out in case somebody needs to use it. Although they didn't tell me that, but I got to drop my truck off at the Atlanta OC, and you get one rental free. The other one you have to pay for. So I can either pay to go back home or pay to come back up, and they'll pay for the rental back up, or they'll pay for the rental going home. So you don't get a free ride both ways, which is fine with me. I don't care. My wife's got to come up to Atlanta. We're coming up this way anyway over the weekend to visit a few people, so I'm gonna have her pick me up, and then I'm gonna get a ride back. The only bad thing is my car is gonna be at the lot in Savannah, and I gotta go grab that. It kind of puts a little bind in there, but you know what? Whatever. I don't care. They'll work it out. They always do. They're pretty good like that. I mean, the pay ain't the best in the world, but they seem to take care of their own. So, y'all keep the left door closed and keep the hammer down.